If you're looking to find out how to personalize every single cold outreach message for your prospects, then in this video, I'll show you the 5 different methods and the 5 different enrichments that you can use inside of Clay today so that you can know how to personalize every single message that you send in just a matter of minutes. Now, essentially, to get started with, I'm going to walk you through method by method and show you how you can use it inside of Clay, and then afterwards compare all of the different methods and show to you what my personal preference is. Now, the first method that we can use is using Twain. So the way that we will use Twain is we'll click on Add Enrichment, type in Twain, and over here, the Generate Outreach with Deep Research Enrichment will come up, which you can see costs quite a lot of Clay credits, but as always, you can go and buy Twain directly and it will be a lot cheaper. And simply put, all you will then do is, if you click on Edit column over here, you would be able to input the LinkedIn person URL, the person's email address, and based on that, Twain can generate personalized email copy. So for example, here, in this case, it talks about the prospect juggling both Selligence and Triggerify, meaning that, the person runs 2 companies at the same time, for example, right? So this is the first method. You could use the Twain enrichment. If you look at the video above right now, it will show you how to use Twain, how to go inside of Twain, configure all the settings, connect it into Clay, and all of that fun stuff. Now, in my opinion, it's a pretty solid start. The price is medium with Twain. I think it costs about 10 cents or so per contact, and it does all the personalizations for you. So that means that you don't need to do any research. You don't need any enrichments to be done beforehand. Twain can do all of the research for you. And just to give you an idea here, you can see that it does the research about the person, it does the research about the company, even provides you with the email address of the person, and then it also gives you some insights. For example, here it talks about what the companies do, and it gives you, some overview about the podcast appearances that the lead has been on, what podcast the person visited, and it also gives you some insights about the prospect. So it does all the research for you. You don't need to worry about paying for enrichment separately. The output quality, from my personal experience, is really good. So in other words, the copywriting is really good with Twain. The personalization is really good as well, and it's very intuitive to use. So that's the first method that we could use. And if you're interested in that, as I mentioned, I'll make sure to link a video above right now so you can check out how to use Twain. And of course, you can get Twain using my affiliate link as well. But once again, I have no affiliation with any of these tools. It's just a matter of me just generating those affiliate links in case if any of you want to try those tools out. The second tool we'll be talking about will be Octave, and Octave enables you to also send personalized outreach at scale. The price is also medium, so it's quite pricey for some people, but all it will be is you'll click on Add Enrichment, you'll type in HTTP API, and they don't have a native integration, so you have to go to Browse Templates and just find the Octave agent, and then over here you'll have the Octave sequence agent over here, and then once again I've got another video on how to use Octave together with Clay, which I'll make sure to link above right now, so go check that out. But talking about Octave, it's pretty good, and let me just show you the kind of email copy they came up with here, with very limited prompting done on my side. So if we go over here into the email, it says, hey, switching from Meltwater's enterprise scene to building Triggerify's AI-driven social signal platform shows how key data can change sales fast. Once again, the opening line is pretty good. I genuinely think that the level of personalization is pretty good, and it's able to do a lot of deep research. However, I do think that the tone of voice a lot of the time, regardless of how many times I tweaked it inside of Octave, it wasn't the best. So I personally didn't find Octave to be as good as Twain. However, I think it depends on the person, so not going to judge them too much. The price is medium in my opinion, based on the pricing tiers that I looked at. The effort is quite high, so inside of Octave, it takes forever to actually get started with it. So it took me an hour or 45 minutes to know what the hell I'm doing. So hopefully in the video that I link about Octave, you can learn how to do that a lot faster. The quality of the output, so the quality of the copywriting is pretty high, and the level of personalization is high as well. So overall, Octave, in my opinion, is my second favorite method after Twain. Hence, it's going in this order right now. And it is pretty cool. The other downside is you need to use the HTTP API inside of Clay, which is only available if you're on the $349 plan. Once again, they probably will get native integration soon. So yeah, let's just keep an eye out on that. And as always, if you want this guide with the videos of how to use Clay with all of these other tools, and if you want some discounts, you can just get this guide down below. So go check it out as well. The link will be down in the description underneath the video. Next up, we have Autobound. So if I just go on Autobound's website, it's autobound.ai. It also helps you to write personalized emails. It claims to do that on the basis of looking for over 150 signals and over 300 different insights, which is pretty cool. And over here, all it takes is clicking on add enrichment, typing in Autobound, and you would see over here that over here, generate personalized content using Autobound, and you can basically do that. It will cost you 7 clay credits per row. And once again, if we look over here, you just input the LinkedIn profile, the company website, all of that fun stuff. And then you can even give us some custom writing instructions and the value proposition. And on that basis, it will generate the outreach copy. So in this case, let's have a look here. I just did this really quickly just to see what kind of information it picks up on. In this case, it picked up on the podcast appearance or the podcast that Max runs, which in my opinion is pretty good. So yeah, I do think it's pretty decent. Although in this case, it hallucinated a bit and it said that it basically said as a fellow Cardiff Met grad who also worked at Trigify. And for context, I've never worked at Trigify and neither am I a Cardiff Metropolitan graduate. So it just got 2 things wrong there. So hence it's number 3 in my list of copywriting tools. But I do think there is a place for it, especially since if I go inside of Autobound here, especially since it's really good at just giving you over here a lot of different insights that AI can be researching for you. So it does research on over 300 different sales triggers and signals for me on the free trial here, as you can see. And I think that offers a really good level of personalization potentially. So once again, a really good method. However, if I go back to my comparison table over here, I would say the price is pretty reasonable. It's in the medium category. The effort to get set up with Autobound is pretty high. Hence, I recorded another video on how you can use Autobound. The quality of the output is medium. I tried tweaking the prompts and so on, but it's just not as intuitive as Twain, in my opinion. It's probably equally as tricky to get set up as Octave as well. So it's just the UX on it is not great, in my opinion. But once again, that's just me from just exhausting my free trial. And the quality of personalization, in my opinion, is high. So once again, the level of personalization on Twain, Octave, and Autobound is great. They can capture the kind of insights that people would struggle to find manually otherwise, because it just takes forever to go on different LinkedIn pages and scroll through podcast transcripts and so on. So generally, Autobound is good. Go check out the video on how to use Autobound with Clay. And in my opinion, if we just categorize on who needs to use all of these tools, I'll talk about Twain a bit later on. In my opinion, Octave is better for enterprise sales or the bigger kind of company sales, because there you're able to just basically have a bunch of different, if I just log in here and show you, you're able to create a bunch of different playbooks for different personas. And you can basically just have different personas, different products, and all of these different playbooks, which you can just share with your existing sales team. And they have a native connection to your Google Drive as well, so that you can pick information from your Google Drive and use it inside of Octave. So that's pretty cool. But in my opinion, it's still not quite as good as Twain. So as far as that goes, we talked about the 3 AI-driven ways to use personalization. So we talked about Twain, we talked about Octave, we talked about Autobound. Now let's talk about some of the other ways which you probably have heard of before, but which are dying out and are no longer, the best ways to do it. So the 4th method is using a static template. So let's imagine over here, we still have the list of people. So we have the first name and we have the last name. And so all we would need to do is just click on add column, message. And then for each individual person from this Clay table, we can just basically create a static message. For example, hi, first name, how are you? Something of that sort. And obviously the reason I'm doing this now is just to show you that this is another possibility. If you have a static message that requires no personalization whatsoever, this is pretty decent, right? So method number 4, just using a template, you will just copy and paste your template here. And then there we are. You can just send that message to every single person. Pretty useful sometimes. And then the 5th method is using many different enrichments, which is what Clay was renowned for from the early days. So essentially the way that this process would look like is you think of what a super personalized email looks like and you draft it. For example, in this case, let's say we're reaching out to e-commerce companies. You can see curly brackets would be the things that Clay needs to research. So the best-selling item from the website, the number of website visitors, the amount, their average order amount and all of that boring stuff. And then after that, you would basically need to break down this entire email into dynamic variables, which is the curly brackets. So for example, first name and best-selling items and so on. And then obviously you will identify the enrichment for each one of these variables. So for example, you're getting the best-selling item using Claygens, whatever. And the way they will basically look like in the final output is that, let's imagine this is the Clay table. You will use different enrichments. So you will firstly go to use Claygen to identify the best-selling item. Then you would go to get the website visitors using SimilarWeb. And then you will go use Claygen again. And then you will do all of these steps and use multiple enrichments on the basis of which you can then finally, generate your personalized email, which would look something like this, right? And if we look at how this would look like otherwise, it's basically this is how you'd put the email together. but it will take forever. It will take so long to get to this final output. And a lot of the time, it limits the amount of emails that you can send, because not for every single company you could send to this level of personalization after you go through like 5 different enrichment steps. So I don't mean to overcomplicate it here, but essentially your other options would be using the static copy, which I showed you, or the multiple enrichment route that I showed you as well, which in my opinion is just super high effort, and the quality of the output can be very medium, and the level of personalization that you can offer could be fairly low, simply because you can't personalize the email to each individual person using just 5 same enrichments every single time. So this begs the question, what would I recommend for you to try? And once again, no affiliation, no association with any of these providers directly, but we personally spend over £500, over $600, $700 every single month on Twain. And I think out of all of these tools, Twain is the best one when it comes to the price, because their pricing is very transparent, unlike a couple of the other providers here, simply because they just say, hey, like basically one contact will cost you 1 credit, and that's it. As opposed to with a lot of other providers, with Octave, with Autobound, it's like one contact can cost you 4 credits or 7 credits or 8 credits. And it's just, it's really hard to understand like how much you're actually paying for the personalizations. Also, the quality of the output is good. The tone of voice is good. The personalization that it picks up on is good. It's very easy to use, and it's very intuitive, and it's a lot faster to set up than Octave and Autobound. And of course, I'm open to trying other providers as well, but these are the ones that were just top of mind so far. And essentially at this point in time, my go-to is Twain. If you want to check out how to use Twain, I'll make sure to link it at the end of this video. Other than that, let me know, what provider are you currently using? Is there another provider that I should be aware of? In which case, I'll probably add them to this type of comparison table so that I try to remain as objective as possible with all of this. But in the meantime, make sure to leave a comment if you watched this far. Let me know what provider you're currently using. Make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel, and do request some more videos, because I'm a bit confused on what other videos you want to see going forward. And in the meantime, if you're not inside of Unlock Clay, consider checking out Unlock Clay, because it's the fastest way that you can become super dangerous inside of the Clay sheets. Other than that, I'll see you in the next video, and make sure to check out the video on how to use Twain coming up straight after this. Cheers.